Welcome to The Explainer. So have you ever really stopped to think about what compassion looks like when it's pushed to its absolute limit? Today we're going to jump into some stories from the Buddha's past lives. And these aren't just tales about being kind. They're about a level of self-sacrifice that's so profound, it really makes you question what it even means to give.
Right off the bat, we get this warning, and it's coming directly from the Buddha himself. What he's basically saying is, look, the stories of my compassion are so extreme, so far beyond what you're used to, that just hearing them could seriously mess with your head. And that's not just a fancy way of speaking. He's setting the stage for some truly mind-bending acts of sacrifice.
So, when we use this term great compassion or mahakaruna, you kind of have to throw out your normal idea of empathy. This isn't just about feeling sorry for someone. Nope, it's an unbreakable vow. It's an active promise that becomes the engine behind every single action, not just for one lifetime, but for, well, an unimaginable amount of time.
At the heart of all this is what's called the Bodhisattva vow. Just try to imagine making a promise, not just to help your friends or your family, but to free every single living being from suffering, no matter what it costs you. It's a vow that puts everyone else's well-being so far above your own that your personal comfort, even your own life, just becomes a tool to be used.
And this quote, this really gives you a window into that headspace. It's not just being willing to help. It's a full-on commitment to take on the most horrific suffering you can imagine for somebody else's sake, and to do it with a happy heart. Hang on to that idea, because that unwavering vow, it's the only way to make sense of the radical actions we're about to get into.
All right, so let's get into what this vow actually looks like in practice. These first examples are, well, they're intense. They focus on a type of giving that's almost unthinkable, offering up your own body as the solution to someone else's problem.
Okay, try to put yourself in this scene for a second. You're lost in a forest. At night, it is pitch black. Every little sound makes you jump, and the fear is just completely overwhelming. You are totally, hopelessly lost.
And then, out of the darkness, a sage appears. But he doesn't just point the way. He takes cloth, soaks it in oil, wraps it around his own arms, and then sets them on fire. He literally becomes a human torch, burning his own body to create the light that will guide these total strangers out of the woods.
And this is the kicker, the part that shows up again and again in these stories. The Buddha drops this bombshell. That sage, that wasn't just some hero. That was me in a past life. So this incredible act, it's just one example of a promise being kept over and over across who knows how many lifetimes.
So the next story shifts gears a bit. We go from providing guidance to providing, well, sustenance. And the need here is so much more primal. He finds these beings who are trapped in this state of horrible starvation, so desperate their only food is raw flesh and blood. Their suffering is just all-consuming.
And his response, it's just immediate, absolute. He cuts his own body, offers his own blood, and he does it with joy, not like he's some kind of martyr. You start to see this clear pattern, this logic. See the suffering, feel this overwhelming compassion, and then offer the most direct solution possible, which, in these stories, is his own physical body.
Okay, so we've seen the body used as a light source and as food. Next up, we see it used as a shield, as protection. But these stories also suggest that maybe, just maybe, enduring physical pain, as incredible as that is, isn't even the final test. There's another level of strength, mental and emotional endurance.
Picture this. In another life, he's the king of this huge herd of elephants. They're being chased by a hunter who's expertly funneled them right to the edge of his massive pit. There's no way across, no turning back. They are 100% trapped.
But instead of panicking, the Elephant King does something just unthinkable. He gets into position at the edge of this chasm and lays his body across the huge gap, becoming a living bridge. Can you just imagine the sheer strength it would take as the entire herd of 500 elephants walks across his back to get to safety? His own body becomes their escape route.
That kind of physical strength is just mind-blowing. But this next story, it asks an even tougher question. What happens when the attack isn't on your body, but on your mind? What if it's not just a moment of pain, but a non-stop flood of pure hatred that lasts for thousands of years?
Yeah, this is the story of a sage called Endurance Power,
A demon trying to test him unleashes 1,000 people to just psychologically torture him every single day for 84,000 years. They scream insults at him, they lie about him, they cover him in filth, and through all of that time, he never once, not for a second, feels a flicker of anger.
And his logic here, this is the whole point. He doesn't see the people torturing him as evil. He sees them as ignorant. They're trapped by their own hatred. And for him, if he got angry, he'd be falling into the exact same trap. Instead, his compassion is so vast that he meets an eternity of hate with an eternity of patience.
So, what's the one thing that connects the burning sage, the one who fed others with his own flesh, the elephant bridge, and this master of patience? You got it. It all circles back to that original, foundational promise. And this is so important to get. These aren't stories about being a martyr. Not at all. They're stories about integrity. Each one of these unbelievable acts is just him keeping a promise he made a long, long time ago. When you vowed to put every other being's welfare above your own, becoming a human torch isn't a tragedy. It's just keeping your word.
Yeah, this quote is basically the mission statement, right? It's a promise to not just help a little, but to be the ultimate source of peace and happiness for others. This vow is the engine. It's the why behind the burning sage, the elephant bridge, and the sage who couldn't get angry. It's the reason for every single one of these seemingly impossible acts.
So what are we supposed to do with stories like this today? You know, whether you take them as literal history or as powerful metaphors, they really force you to look at your own limits. They challenge our normal, everyday ideas of kindness, and they leave us with a really profound question. What is the true potential of compassion, and what, if anything, are we willing to sacrifice for it?